I recently paid £5.44 for a meal. Oopsie, there's a huge mistake in there. I cannot say a point when I am talking about pounds. Then what do I say? Do I use a point for dollar? No, I don't. Even if I see it, I don't use it. This is the trick, my dear friends. Welcome to the lesson. My name is Michelle, and today we are learning how we can talk about dollar or the pound correctly, how we can use the numbers correctly and pronounce them the right way. So join me and let's go. So let's look at the first number that we have on the board. So I hope you know that this sign means a pound, all right? This is a pound which reflects the British or the currency in the UK. So which reflects the currency in the UK because pound is used in UK. All right. But how do we call this? Do we call this 1.45 pounds? Do we? In mathematics, ideally, we would call this 1.45. But when you are talking about the British pound, you would say 145. You have to pay 145 for this meal, or you got to pay 145 for buying this marker. Something like that. All right? So it should be 145. Great. Now let's look at the next one. This is a dollar, all right? And this currency is used in the USA. One of the most common currency. It's used in the US. Would we say this as 2.80? No, just like pound, we would also call this 280. So these two words come together as 80, not 80. So 280. You must pay 280. So if someone tells you in the US that you got to pay 280, you do not have to pay $280. But you have to pay instead 2.80. But this is not how we call it. So actually, this is a dollar and these are the cents. What are cents? We'll come down to what are cents later in the lesson, and I'll also tell you what is a pence, but later in the lesson. Let's look further. This is 50 pounds. Here we said 145 and we did not say the word pounds. And here we said 280 and we did not say the word dollar. How about this one? Should we say 50? No. Whenever you have a full digit, that is you have only pounds and no other pence, not a pence after it, that's when you say 50 pounds to make it clear. So you would call this as 50 pounds. And here as well, when you have a full figure, a whole figure, and not an approximate figure, you would call it $760. $760. Great. Now let's look further. What's this? This is 100 pounds or is this 100 pounds? So it's all right and it's correct to say it's 100 pounds. It's not wrong, but you'd mostly hear native speakers in Britain say that it's 100 pounds and not it's 100 pounds. So one is replaced by a even when you're talking about currency, not just English. So it is 100 pounds. Great. Now let's look at another figure where we are talking about dollars, but we have more than 100 pounds. We have 134 pounds, or do we still call it 134 pounds? Well, even right now, sorry, dollars, my bad, we'd still call it $134. So the trick is, any digit that starts with 1, you will replace it with a and not say the 1. So it could be a million or 100 million or 134 million or 150 million or 134 pounds, dollars. I love pound too much, it seems. $134 dollars. Great, this is fun. We are talking money. We all love to talk money. Let's go further. So as I promised you, I would come to pence and cents. What are pence and cents? So we have 1 pound, all right? And further, we can have 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds. But any figure which is less than 1 pound is quantified in terms of pence. The word is pence. P-E-N-C-E. So we have 50 pence. So basically, this is the digit that you'll always see after the point. And if there is no point, this means that we are talking exclusively about 50 pence, something that you can buy for 50 pence. It's got to be really cheap to buy something for 50 pence in the UK. You'd rarely get something, but you will for sure. So here, try this. Which one is the pound and which one is the pence? We know that 1 is the pound and 45 is the pence. So we would say 1 pound, 45 pence. Or should we say 1 pound and 45 pence? It's all right if you say 1 pound and 45 pence. There is no problem as far as the pound is concerned. However, if you're talking about dollar, it's going to be different. But let's find out what is less than a dollar. Is it still pence? It's not pence. Anything that is less than a dollar is called cents. So you need to be careful whether it's pence or it's cents that you're hearing correctly. So anything less than a dollar is cents. Now let's look at this one. So it should be $2.80. So when you're talking about dollar, it's necessary that you put an and between the dollar and the cents. But when you're talking about a pound, it's not necessary to put an and between the pound and the pence. So pound and pence for the British currency and dollar and cents for the American currency. Now another thing that I want to tell you is very interesting. Instead of saying 50 pence, you could simply go ahead and say 50p, which is a more informal way of talking about pence, anything less than a pound. So you could say 50p, you'd pronounce it as p. Not the other p, but this p, the money p. Right, so now let's look at the next word that we have with us on the board, and that is quid. So what is a quid? Quid is a way of talking about money informally. So if you're in the Britain, you should know the word quid, which actually means money. So you could say 50 quids or 1.45 quids, which is very informally referring to dollars or cents, whatever it could be, pounds or pence, whatever it would be. You have to guess that contextually. So quid means money, informally. So you could say that I want to have a 5 quid meal. 5 quid meal means a meal that you can buy for 5 pounds. So possibly you'll get a 5 quid meal maybe in a 10-pound restaurant. Could be. Right. So let's look at the next one that we have, a fiver or a tenner. So in the British currency, how do you refer to the paper money? So a paper money is actually officially called a note. N-O-T-E, note, right? That's paper money that you have, a paper pound. But if you're referring to a paper money which is equivalent to 5 pounds, you would call it a fiver, or if it's 10 pounds, you would call it a tenner. They're popularly called as fiver or tenner. And if you have a 20-pound note, then there is no informal word for that. You will have to call it 20 pounds. And either you say 5 for fiver or 10 pounds as tenner. And piece and bit. Now we've already talked about paper money, so we're going to talk about coins, what are the metal coins called in the UK? So the metal coins are either called piece or bit. So piece is a more universal word. You can refer to this word either in the UK or in the US. It's not specific to the UK. But in UK, you'd specially say the word bit for coins. So you could say 5 bits for coins. What would you get for 55 bits? So this would mean 5.5 bits, which means 5 pounds and 5 pence. Right. So now we have the next one, which is called bills. Bills is the paper money that you get in America. That's what the Americans call paper money. They call it bills. So in Britain, we call paper money as note, but in America, we call paper money as bills. So 5 bills. That means a $5 bill would be a paper money equivalent to $5. Now we have the last one, which is a dime. This is what we call a piece or a bit in the US. Now what is a piece or a bit? Look for yourself on the board. Piece or a bit is coins in the UK, right? Paper money in America is bills, but dime is coins in the US. If you're referring to the coins in US, you'd call it a dime. Right, so please don't make the mistake of saying 1.45 pounds or $1.34. You'd say $145 or 135 pounds. Or in other cases, you would simply just say 135, 240. And it's understood that we are talking either about dollar or about pounds. So I had a great time teaching you. I hope this is very useful. Whether you're in whichever country, you will definitely come across these two currencies. You'll have to deal with them. Or if you go to the UK or the US, it'll definitely help you there to know their currency very well. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.